on your seatbelt. It's going to be a bumpy ride.
Chrissy is hilarious.
Chrissy, have you ever heard of the comedian Basha K. Ali?
No, that sounds like something you yell out before you blow up a plane.
30 seconds remaining.
But you know, it's good to say I doubt it will stand up to something. I haven't disrespected you at all.
I was very confused by the title, Everything Everywhere All at Once, because that's also what we call it when Ash takes off his shirt.
I shouldn't be up here. I should be in school on the other side of the ocean.
Hello, boys and girls. Welcome to another episode of the CHRISSIE MAYR podcast. Ooh, what is this, day 2 of enjoying the meltdowns from the left? It's great. It's been nice, hasn't it? You can hear this podcast over, gosh darn it, we're all over the place. iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud, Rumble, Rockfin, Twitter, Twitch, Facebook. Yes, we're here. We're queer. Get used to it. Please like and subscribe. I'm inching closer and closer to 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. I can't wait to hold that silver play button in my arms like a baby. And I'll put a blanket over it at night and feed it baby food. And what else? That's all. Our guest today, he's been on before. I'm pretty sure he's been on the show before. He is a political conservative. He is a civil litigation lawyer. And he's the host of his very own show called Culmination. Please welcome back to the show, Ron Coleman.
Hello, I have been on before, absolutely, and it's culmination. You have to say it fast, otherwise you lose the joke.
Oh, duh! Culmination.
Just like I killed rock and roll. See,
right? Usually a pun never evades me, so this is a little embarrassing.
It's how bad of a pun it is.
Culmination. Ron, you had a bit of an election night bonanza.
Yeah, thank you for joining me. And you were saying before, Rana came so late, but it was actually just perfect. It was like dessert.
I came on 5 minutes before they ended. I was like, I'll be there. And then everyone was like, we're tired. We're done. We have nothing left to say. I was like, no.
There were some people who stayed on, all through the night with their stuff. And I think at a certain point, there's diminishing returns. You have to acknowledge that there are lots of people covering the fine details and the cleanup, and
it's true.
Anyway, it was fun.
At a certain point, people have to pee, they have to get water, they need a snack, and it was really interesting. I think this might have been the first election where I was so, of course, tuned into your program and, quite frankly, Frank Valbiro's program that I was on earlier in the evening, but also Charlie Kirk's podcast. He had Jack Posobiec on, and I was watching the Daily Wire.
It's a new world.
It's a new world because
everyone is going to. It's amazing.
Not only the independent, of course, like we all are of the legacy media, but they're getting their own updates from their own insider people.
Oh, I mean, guys like Charlie and Jack, sure.
Yeah, and it's exciting. It makes it very competitive.
It is, it's a whole new world. There's no more information monopoly. In fact, the last time I was on the show, I think we almost certainly were talking about social media. Censorship was probably pre-Elon.
Oh, yeah.
And now that man, say what you will about Teslas. I happen to think the Cybertruck is absolutely an awful abomination. But he is transformed himself into an historical figure. He made a difference. He's really made a difference.
I saw a tweet slightly disparaging Elon, saying like, "Oh, Elon's so dumb. He spent $44 billion no, it had to have been million.
Whatever the number was.
$44 million on Twitter, and all he got was access to 3 branches of government. And I'm like, okay, I don't know if that's exactly, I don't know if that was his intention. I think he really wanted to save free speech in America.
Yes, and I think that it just so happens that there is one political party that's interested in that and one that's not. You can't blame Elon for that.
No. Also, he lost his eldest son to the woke mob, literally, and it's been trending today that I forget their name, but they're threatening to move out of the country now, just like how everybody threatens to move out of the country.
Do any of them really do it ever?
Can someone name one person, one celebrity who has moved out? Because they just bitch. They don't have any real plans. Nowhere is better to live.
What's the threat?
Yeah.
What's the threat? You're going to deprive us of your being here? How's that going to affect Ron Coleman's life or CHRISSIE Mayr's life?
Not gonna. And it's like, well, leave. See if anybody. Don't announce that you're leaving. Leave. See if anybody cares, and then you can make your case. But
so now you started out saying it's like the second day of the new era.
Yeah.
Of the new world.
Everyone's got a pep in their step.
We do. Even the elderly.
Taller. Yes, the elderly. They're wheeling themselves around faster. and when I was on, you were not only not a wife, you were not only not a mother yet, you were not even a wife. Whoa.
That's how long it's been. But I don't blame you for that.
Now I'm transformed. No, it's my fault. It's been way too long.
It's not your fault. What fault? What fault? We're in an era of good feelings. Okay? We're not going to let them identify us, label us as dark MAGA or whatever it is.
Although I do want that hat.
I probably could have helped you get that hat, considering that I was texted about 17 times a day to buy one by Win Red.
I think I did a lot of stop texts for spammy reasons. Although I did get texts from Kamala and her peeps and emails as well. And I was like, where'd you get this number? I haven't. You're not talking to stupid 20-year-old CHRISSIE May. You're talking to stupid older than that CHRISSIE May.
Yeah, I think everyone who has a cell phone gets this. I could be wrong, but probably everybody gets the same. But you know what was nice was all the times that I got texts from Donald Trump telling me that he loved me.
Yeah.
I really didn't know that I was appreciated on that level by President Trump.
And he means it.
CHRISSIE, seriously, we got to really take stock of this. If I told you 2 months ago, we would actually be having this, what we would be worrying about today is,
right.
Are there going to be enough, is there going to be enough wiggle room in the House to have both? That we would be, and this is, by the way, a problem that we have in life is we instantly accept good things that happen to us and treat them like the baseline. But this is unbelievable what just happened in our lives. Unbelievable.
It is. I was not even able to get excited on Thursday night. Even when what was it?
Well, after pregnancy, that happens sometimes.
we got North Carolina, then Georgia was looking really good, and then it was Pennsylvania, wasn't it? And it's like in Pennsylvania, everybody knew that was the key. And I still was like, that sneaky bitch is going to worm her way in somehow. Like, do we need to look at Alaska again? I just couldn't get excited about it because
somebody asked me, was this more exciting than 2016? To which I said, no, it wasn't. This was a matter of staring into the abyss and wondering whether we would elude it, at least for a while. 2016 was like, serendipity. Like I came here I'm working on a phone bank in Philadelphia, working a phone bank, being a good soldier. I was already Ron Coleman, but I was 52 years old or something. I'm working a phone bank like an intern. For the sake of the party, everyone knows the New York Times needle, 89, 50, 90% Hillary. What are we doing here? We're doing the right thing. And then as the night went on, that needle's moving. That needle's moving. I'm getting chills just telling you about it. It was, wow. and I'm not going to say that I'm never going to describe 2024 as a year of getting chills. It was a year. It was a relief. And of course I did the stream that I did do on purpose as a way of distracting myself, because my doctor would not give me the prescription I asked for, which was like three days of basically an induced coma.
You just wanted 3 days worth. And he's like, I know what this is. This is an election-related prescription. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it, Ron.
Actually, I've got a doctor who was my friend in summer camp going back to 1973. He'll write whatever I ask him for.
It's always good to have a pill guy.
I've got a pill guy. And again, at my age, you really want to have a pill guy.
You need to. I love hearing these. I was not awake in 2016. It took me sadly until 2018 to start to come around on Trump and many other things. So I imagine 2016 just felt like the absolute, just a breakthrough.
Well, I was pretty dubious. I was a Ted Cruz guy. I still admire Ted Cruz greatly. I think, in fact, that he handled the move, the Trump moment, like a real pro, like a real professional. And yet he's a Princeton guy like me, and he's even arguably as smart as I am, or smarter. Okay. So I mean, really, I think
impossible. How can anyone be smarter than you, Ron?
Well, especially for a Texan, right? I mean, you're asking a lot there. But I was skeptical about Trump, but I saw that was where it was going. And I said, listen, all I know is we've got, I'm a Republican. And boy, it's been a wild ride. It's been a wild ride. It's been a wild ride.
John,
some people say the wildest ride ever.
John in the chat thinks you're smarter than Ted Cruz.
Than Ted Cruz? Well, I might be, but he's more accomplished. So,
what are accomplishments?
You don't get paid for being. Let me tell. If anyone out there said, "Boy, I wish I could be as smart as Ron Coleman," and if you're saying that as the owner of multiple homes, and you have a retirement account with money in it, perhaps you don't get paid for being smart. In fact, there's a negative correlation at a certain point. And how smart is Ron Coleman? He's past that point.
It's like a burden, high intelligence. It's like you're burdened with knowing.
Well, to some extent it is, but you wouldn't want to be any other way than what you are.
True.
Maybe a little bit more hair, or even slower.
That is something Ted does have over you, but that's about it, in my opinion. Maybe more cowboy boots. This is fun. I've enjoyed the meltdown.
Oh my gosh!
All the meltdown montages, and embarrassingly, they're mostly coming from white women.
I may be drunk, but I'm dead ass serious when I say, "Fuck you!" If you voted for Trump, and here's what I think about it. I may be drunk, but I'm dead ass serious when I say.
She's not drunk enough to lean all the way down into the camera, though.
No.
So I give her credit. Now, you know what? I actually think it just occurred to me, Chrissy, as we're watching this, that this may be the death knell. This moment right now, this week, might be the death knell for the emotional tantrum selfie video. This might actually be the end of it, because
no, really? Come on.
Yeah.
That would be too much. That would be too good. I think it's funny to see the the sex strike happening again, just like it did back in 2016.
Well, that's why it's good to be married to a Jewish woman, because you really you have a superpower. You're not vulnerable to that kind of blackmail. Let's just leave it.
I thought you were going to say because you're already in a sex strike.
Well, that is my point.
Okay.
Yes, that was the joke.
Oh yes, I missed it. I'm out of it. Here's another.
Yeah, that's okay. Well,
If you thought I hated white men before, you don't even know what's coming for them crackers.
Oh, what's coming? What is coming? Yeah, I gotta know. What, she gonna tell us?
No, she's leaving us in suspense.
Oh man, I am worried now.
You picked a fucking rapist. You picked a rapist. You picked a fucking rapist.
Shell shocker.
How fucking dare you?
Oh, I like it when they spit into the camera. That's fun. God, it's all women. It's all women. This is embarrassing. I can't play anymore.
I know. I saw a couple guys.
Yeah, but they're not really guys.
Well, that right. Okay,
They're
so
boys.
I set you up there. And this is what Jane, my lovely and talented spouse, is always saying, is that the feminization of American culture is how we got here. It's bad enough that we gave the women the vote, but that the men also gave the women their vote.
Ooh.
Some significant percentage thereof. It's a problem.
They were bullied out of their own vote. A lot of these guys.
You must have, though. I mean, okay, so if I recall, you were pretty apolitical, and just kind of like most people in the comedy, comfortably liberal. Like that's a cool thing to do.
Yeah,
who are these people?
Liberal.
People are right wing. People are right wing nuts. Okay, right? And so. And of course, everything it wasn't a big deal then. It wasn't like everything was this momentous thing. But in those days, did you feel that you could? What was my question? Actually, there was a segue from the previous point.
Oh,
the men. So could you pick up that there were men who were, mouthing like the male feminism thing? Like could you pick up the guys who were just saying feminist kind of things in order to get in good with chicks?
Because I was still stuck in my like post-college shaking off my own feminist brainwashing. I wasn't really aware. Like the guys I was like dating at that time. No, it didn't really come up because I was still like so lost in finding myself and figuring out like
it was about you in those days.
Yeah.
Now that you're a podcaster, staring at yourself for hours a day, and then editing footage of yourself for hours a day, and then doing thumbnails of yourself, regarding which I know nothing, by the way. Okay, we understand. Now you've moved on from that sort of narcissistic moment.
Oh yeah, and nothing.
But you're a mom, though,
and nothing helps like becoming a mom. Yeah, make it not about yourself anymore. You're just like, oh, can't fit into my clothes. All right, well, what's for lunch? You're just like, what's next? It's the best thing. It's the best thing I've ever done. And everyone I ever talk to, I say, have a baby.
You now have a dimension to life that you didn't have before.
When you're having a baby, it feels like you're zooming through like a like in Back to the Future where they like zoom through the different years. That's what like giving birth feels like. You're literally like hurtling through space or something, time and space. Your bones are moving, and then you're like, what the fuck? There's a person coming out of me.
Okay, so this is you were describing literally, as you said, you were describing the process of having a baby, not merely being a parent.
Right.
Not merely being a parent, because you already were a parent. I can see you. You're right there. But being a mom, a birthing person.
Chest feeder.
And that's an experience, of course, that I can never share. Thank God. Thank God. But being a parent, but you're telling me something, a novel point here, because what I was saying was being a parent adds a dimension to your life. But you're saying, Ron, before you even come on to that, before you start thinking about eternity and generations and legacies and responsibility, just spitting a baby out of your innards, that already, you now have gone from 3D to 4D.
For real, it does feel that way.
Wow. That must be awful.
It's exciting. It's really cool. No, it's like, and I still think it's harder to write an hour of stand-up comedy. Like I think of like it took 9 months to make a person. It's taken me longer to, redo my studio. It's taken me longer to like.
Have you done your studio? Yes, I remember. I remember it being a much more kind of different but you had, I think it was fairly new. I think you had started your own pod fairly recently when I was on.
Maybe, yeah. I think I 2020, January of 2020 is when I started to do this podcast, and then May of 2020 was like, I'm going to do it multiple times a week because most comedians only do one. If they do a podcast at all, they'll do it once a week, which just like simply isn't enough. And then most comedians who do a podcast are just interviewing other comedians, which really pigeonholes you into a niche. Most people,
yeah, the rest of us. I thanks for pointing that out, because I have some comedian friends, and I say, okay, I'll be a bud, and I'll watch the stream, I'll watch the pod, and it's all this freaking inside talk about, and naming other comedians by now. To be fair, I am a man of considerable experience on the earth, and I don't necessarily know what the kids are all listening to these days. I get that. I remember Kristen Carney had to tell me who Bill Burr was. Okay. That's pretty bad. That's pretty bad. But yeah, so then you said, were you, at that time then, were you thinking of the podcast as a way to promote the stand-up?
No. I just was like, I needed an outlet, and I just wanted to do something else to like just be productive. I wasn't thinking that it would attract people to shows, but that's ultimately kind of what it's become. And I never thought it would be possible to replace my day job income with the podcast, which was the ultimate dream, to just not have to work for anybody else. And in fact, it's harder to work for yourself. But it's more rewarding. And I just was never somebody that did well with a boss. Like,
oh man, are you kidding?
They would eventually just find out that I did comedy and begin to hate me. And then it's like a matter of time before they fire you. So
never even occurred to me. It's a little bit harder for me because I think I like doing this a lot, but I'm not prepared to walk away from my legal career. But if you're on the air too much, if you're streaming too much or podcasting too much, then people do think that you made that shift, and they don't necessarily reach out and try to retain you, which does have the potential, unless you're going to be Joe Rogan, for most people to be a more financially rewarding way of making a living than podcasting.
Yeah.
But I like integrating it into, I have taken a major step forward in integrating more video and more streaming into the mix.
Good.
I think so.
Yeah. It's like, and everybody, you do what you can. I always tell people, like, keep your job as long as you can. And I kept it to after work hours and weekends, just like I did with my stand-up. And then once my job wouldn't keep me because I wouldn't get the jab, I was like, well, I guess I have more time to do this. So it worked out for the best. It opened up a lot of time for me. Okay. Oh, Island, thank you for the super chat. Oh no, crazy women who like to berate and emasculate aren't going to leave men alone. They're going to hate that. Yeah, the sex strike is good. Women are finally learning abstinence, which is cool.
Yeah.
It only took a second Trump presidency.
Yeah, right.
So, what I want to know from you, because you're the legal genius, is this is a topic that a lot of people have been concerned with is, oof, what is Letitia James, who is the New York Attorney General, is she still a threat against Trump in New York? And generally, what do you think is going to happen with Trump and all of his legal drama between now and January and, inauguration going forward after that?
Well, let's first start out by saying that I am speaking entirely on my own behalf. I do represent the Trump campaign and the president in a couple of matters, and our firm is very actively involved in in litigation, in campaign related litigation. I'm actually focused. My focus is on intellectual property. That spate of lawsuits over unauthorized use of songs at rallies, that nonsense.
Okay.
So I'm not speaking in that capacity. I'm speaking in my capacity as a bald Irishman. Letitia James is a criminal. I don't think she will ever be prosecuted for her criminal conduct, although it is a civil rights violation and it's an abuse of power under color of state authority, which is both a civil and a criminal violation of Section 1983 and of probably the Civil Rights Act. But I do think that she's going nowhere. The case against Donald Trump, where she secured 34 convictions for being in the real estate business, will be tossed out. I predicted that it would be tossed out because it was such an absolute dumpster fire of a legal case, so bad that even the district attorney who brought it turned it down, refused to until he was, I guess, pulled by the short hairs about proceeding with it. But apparently, the oral argument in the First Department Appellate Division sounded all the right notes. And I think we will see an opinion in that case come out fairly soon, now that the election is over. Letitia James, though, announced that we're going to do everything we can, and so did 3,000 miles away Gavin, the governor. We're prepared to fight back in dumb and bizarre presser with Governor Hochul after. No, so whose words are dumb and bizarre?
Maybe this is the Post, so probably.
But I'm sure she didn't say at 2:00 today there will be a dumb and bizarre press conference. She may as well have, though. It's so Gavin, what's the California governor guy?
Newsom.
Yeah, Newsom. I know a lot of Gavins. Gavin Newsom apparently called a special session of the California legislature to allocate money, because they have nothing but extra money for this kind of thing in California, to set up like a similar kind of thing, a task force, legislate. I mean, remember, the heart of this has always been, what can local and state governments do to frustrate federal policy, including federal law enforcement and particularly immigration law? Answer is not really as much as they think they can. The difference, there you go. There is something called federal, it's not supremacy. I used the word properly before. Federal courts are the daddy, okay? I mean, federal law is the daddy. Now, there are areas that the Constitution specifically protects from federal encroachment. You can make there are all kinds of things that you can make policy about that the federal government has no say. But if federal law says that someone's not allowed to be in the United States, and they're in the United States, the fact that they're in a sanctuary city doesn't change the federal law. You cannot. It's supremacy. It's the supremacy clause. Federal law is supreme, and the Trump 2.0, this administration is going to enforce laws and staff administrative positions and enforcement positions in a very, very different way from what we saw in 2016. It's really going to be some party. So this stuff with Newsom and Hochul is political theater, and it's rather savvy. It's a way of them grabbing or seeking to grab some sort of, at least locally, and being that it's California and New York, nothing's really ever that local, some sort of political initiative. Let's say, it's not going to just be all about Trump. There are going to have to be some judges that are going to have to get the message, and they will probably have to get that message from the United States Supreme Court at some point. But even in those respects, a lot has changed in the last 4 to 8 years. There have been a number of Supreme Court opinions that even the Second Circuit in New York, the Federal Circuit Court in New York, and the Ninth Circuit, Federal Circuit Court in California, have acknowledged can govern their actions. So it's really going to be really great. And what's cool is I know a lot of the people who are going to be doing this stuff, and it's just even though 2016 was super exciting. I mean, what was the problem was the morning after, and the fact that this lifelong New Yorker really had no idea of how the swamp worked, and made the mistake of thinking, well, I'm a member of a political party, so they'll help me. Survey says, well, it's different. It's his party now. It's really gonna be great. So I'm not worried about that aspect of lawfare. It's not even. It's just, look, to some extent, it's a little bit refreshing. It's part of the federal system that is the cooked-in genius of the United States Constitution. And I think it's okay to have that pressure, to have that tension, and for it to be tested. It is important that we have one rule of law for the whole country with respect to federalism, to what states can and can't do. And we'll see, there's going to be lots of litigation, and I'm here for it.
This is a good question from Matthew Hammond, who always has good questions.
Yeah, that's Matthew Hammond. I wouldn't expect anything.
Can federal courts stop Trump's deportations?
Yes. But I think ultimately they won't. I think that it is much more likely that there will be a couple of court. You can be sure that actions will be filed in the ever-friendly confines of the United States District Court for the District of Hawaii and the Northern District of California, all the communist outposts. And they're going to have to be dealt with. But I think the Supreme Court is ready to start in a way that it wasn't 8 years ago, ready to start cracking the whip.
Did you say Hawaii was a communist outpost?
Oh, yeah. Well, look who they're sending.
How did it get to be like that?
Okay, let's start with the basics. Hawaii is not really part of the United States. Okay. When Alaska was made a state, the only way Democrat would agree, Alaska was a Republican state, would have been a Republican state. The only way the Democrats would agree would be if there would also be a Democrat state. So Hawaii's always been on the liberal side. It's not a real place at all. It's like a Disneyland kind of situation.
It's like
Right?
Hong Kong. I was there in like 20 years ago. Yeah. Very Asian.
Right. Well, but it's not, and I don't only mean ethnically. I mean, I wouldn't say that at all. I mean, the ethnic composition is completely irrelevant to my point. My point is that it's a fantasy land. I mean, one of the reasons that we have the political traditions that we do is because our founders were men of Northern Europe, Anglo-Saxons, and their worldview is definitely influenced by growing up in climates that had seasons and you couldn't just walk around in a grass skirt.
I don't trust anyone that can wear shorts all year long. I don't feel like that makes you in touch with reality. That you can just be in.
But don't you love those guys who you go to the 7-Eleven and they're in February and they're there in their shorts. Listen, there's no accounting for taste, but Hawaii has always been rather liberal, and I do think to some extent, just like what happened to California, especially Southern California, I do think living in, this is like a pet theory of mine, but I bet you there's lots of research to back it up. Living in warm climates makes you kind of gay.
Yes, gay and soft. This needs to be talked about more.
Until you get to the desert, then it very quickly snaps back the other direction.
Right. Okay. So hot and dry, shit gets
real. You know why?
But
because
hot and moist.
Hot and dry, and cold and flinty. They make you angry. Hot and moist, it makes you lazy.
No, very lazy, no motivation. You're constantly on vacation. Time is irrelevant. The seasons are good. It's like it marks the passing of time. It snaps you into action. Humidity is gay. See, everyone agrees. This is the most important thing we've talked about.
That's why the whole Miami thing. I think if there were one place that I could imagine moving to, that, like, I'm a New Yorker. So to me, I haven't actually lived in New York City for many, many, many years, but I'm looking out the window at the skyline. I live in northern New Jersey. I'm in New York.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to ever consider, if I were exiled from New York, if I were to ever consider a different place to live, it has to be a city. I'm a city cat. Miami to me is kind of like that kind of city. I mean, I liked Chicago, but they ruined, when I was in law school there, but they utterly ruined Chicago. And it's cold as hell. And that's a little bit too mean. Okay.
Yeah.
Miami is, I could go for Miami, but
you're not gay.
I'm not gay. The humidity.
Not with that attitude.
You have to be so freaking buff. Everyone there was walking around in minimal. Like, I went down there and had a dinner. I didn't go down there to have dinner, but I went down there, and so I had dinner with my friend David Reboy. And that guy's a freaking bodybuilder. Okay, I mean, like, that's just run of the mill Florida ripped. You know.
Also, the better the weather, the gayer it is, because there's more pressure to have a better body because you don't have to be covered up with a coat half the year.
That's right.
Everyone needs to see what you're working with at all times, Ron.
You know what I'm working with? You can't see it.
Your brain.
That's what I do the heavy lifting with, folks. That's what I do the heavy lifting with.
So Trump should be not concerned. I mean, I feel like he's got really good people around him now.
He's got really good people, and guess what? He's going to have a really good Supreme Court. That's one of the sweetest parts of this, is that now these really, really old, and not to say that they aren't also quite sprite. Justice Thomas, God bless him. He's old as hell. Alito's old as hell. They need to. This is the opportunity for them to be retired and replaced with some 40-something old conservative judges that could bring it. And it's going to be awesome.
Who decides when those folks retire?
They do. They can't retire. No one can make him retire. But I do think that it is. I do think. Yeah. So actually, in the chat, Cliff makes a point. Let's pack the courts. Yeah, that's true. He could do what the Democrats. There's even legislation just waiting to be voted on to pack the courts. Okay, yeah, wait, but we can do that. Let's pack the courts. You know why I'm against packing the courts, and in this respect, I am kind of gay. The courthouse, the Supreme Court courthouse has 9 seats. You'd have to redecorate the whole place, and it's really a problem because it's actually rather tight. It's rather tight in the court. When you're sitting at council table.
Okay, yeah, like literally.
Yeah, spatially. Like if you go to the Southern District of Florida. So the Southern District of Florida, they built a courthouse in the, I think in the 90s, with these massive, massive spaces, so that if gangbangers or drug lords are on trial, there's like 30 feet between the defendant and the bench.
I've seen folks hop over trying to get to judges, and it's happened. They've done it.
Russell's saying it's a super chat, so you can throw. So Russell has a couple of important points. So Russell makes the green one, right?
Oh, whoops! There was one before that. Oh my god.
Yeah.
I'm too slow. All right, Russell Hall, Trump's previous court appointees were a little hit and miss, and I'm being kind there.
Yeah, they were hit and miss, but everything's hit and miss. It's true. If you have someone like Thomas or Alito, and I wouldn't even go so far as to say Scalia. Scalia had some quirky views on some things as well. It's hit and miss, but I mean, when you consider the alternative, this is a big win.
Buzz you.
I thought gay people loved redecorating. They do, but the room has to work. The room has to work, and it's true. So Cliff said, isn't it possible? Isn't it possible to jam a couple more in there? It might be, but I just think the symmetry is going to be off. And I think that there's a secret door for each one of them. One of the things that was coolest when I was in front of the Supreme Court was you knew the justices were about to come out when, before they do the oye, oyes, gavel bang, a bunch of young people, one per justice, came out and placed their Lord and Liege's coffee mug at their regal master's spot, so that when they came out, the coffee would be sitting there and ready for them. It's crazy stuff. But I do think it is. Cliff's points and Russell's points are good. We have to be careful, but it helps a lot to have a comfortable Senate majority. I mean, 56 would have been nice. 53 is still pretty good. You have to have the bench. We have the bench. There's some really, really good guys out there. I would listen. Why don't we just take the whole Fifth Circuit and put them on the Supreme Court? I'm sure they will be looking there.
I heard that we lost to, or maybe we were fortified out of a couple Senate seats.
Yep. I mean, it's not. I don't know if it's real. Thank you, Jeremy. I don't know really exactly right now. I mean, Carrie Lake is hanging in. My many members of my firm are there, even as we speak, trying to still. There's a lot of garbage going on in Arizona. I mean, they're terrible.
Yeah.
So one of the other things that the administration must do and will do, I'm predicting, I don't actually know this, I'm just predicting it, is election reform. The Constitution does permit Congress to make laws concerning the standards for voting, and if not now, never. They've got to do it. They've got to do it.
Yeah, it's important. Let me see. I don't know if you went over this already from Matthew Hammond. Would circuit courts' involvement not be a separation of powers violation as immigration judges report to the executive branch via the AG?
What? Oh, okay. Would circuit courts' involvement in deporting? No, ultimately, even courts that are part of the administrative law courts that are part of the executive branch are appealable to Article 3 courts. So that's how you get into the circuits. And in fact, it's well known among immigration lawyers that appeals are virtually never filed in the United States Circuit Court for the District of Columbia because it is such a communist court. There's no sense in even going there. And they file everything in the Fifth Circuit, which routinely has jurisdiction over immigration appeals because so many of them involve the southern border. And the Fifth Circuit includes Texas. And that's where you get some good old American justice.
How many circuits are there? I feel like I should know this, but I get overwhelmed by this stuff.
There are 13 circuits, but there should be more because the Ninth Circuit was formed at a time when there was like nobody in California. It includes California, Arizona, Oregon, Washington, Hawaii. It's unwieldy. It's ridiculous. So they ought to cut that into 2 or 3 circuits, and they also, on the other hand, they should dissolve. They should dissolve the U.S. Circuit for the District of Columbia. There's no reason for a city to have its own circuit court.
Yeah, that's sneaky.
But especially when it's communist dominated, as this one is, just fold the district of the district court in D.C. into the Fourth Circuit. I'm here for that.
I like that too. Russell Hall says, I thought, yeah, we did that about the gay people loving redecorating. Dorgo, the white. Easy litmus test for new SC judges. Would you re-legalize post-1986 civilian machine guns, i.e. overturn the Hughes Amendment? A yes answer qualifies.
So, Torgo, that's a very impolitic litmus test. Well, if you want that to be the litmus test in your private quarters, in the Oval Office when you meet with the candidates, I guess that's okay. But I would hope that a senator in the Judiciary Committee would not ask that question because that would be a good, the Overton window has shifted profoundly in the direction that nobody would. It's a real hard sell, I think, for the public. I get it, Torgo. I get it. But come on. Get real with me, okay?
Matthew Hammond again. Can Ron team up with Robert Barnes and others to select Supreme Court judges so we get an alternative to the Federalist Society?
Your question was answered after the word Barnes.
Are you not a fan?
He's a friend.
Okay.
No, I don't want to be too coy. Robert's a good guy. I don't think either one of us is actually qualified to choose Supreme Court justices because there is a category of people who really follow the judiciary, who know what judges are doing around the country, and they really have the ability. The Federal Society, I think, frankly, you can second guess them, but they've been pretty successful. And I am biased. I'm a member of the Federal Society. I'm going to be at the annual lawyers conference next week. Oh, it's going to be fun.
What are these parties like, Ron? Do they have comedians? Is it open bar?
There is open bar. Do they have comedians? No. These are lawyers, a lot of whom wear bow ties, okay? I mean, this is a pretty nerdy scene. But it's my people. What else can I say?
Sounds fun. Russell Hall, Texas also has quite a few commie judges, and not just in Austin. Their family courts are among the worst in the country, from what I hear.
I hear that also. I think, though, Russell, that you're probably thinking of state courts, and that's a Texas issue. There's not much we can do about the state courts. And when I say we, I mean Chrissy and me.
Okay, thank you, Russell. I think you did. Oh, another question from Matthew. Was Amy Coney Barrett the best pick?
Well, it's funny that you asked that, because when Chrissy asked me, do they have comedians, I was thinking of how funny Amy Coney Barrett was when she spoke at the lawyers conference last year. She was actually a laugh riot.
Really? She was really funny intentionally?
Yeah, she was riffing. And she has like 40 or 50 kids or something.
Wow.
I don't think that she was necessarily the best pick. I mean, she seems to me to be very thoughtful, but I think that she had, as merely a second guessing guy, I think she missed a couple of important things. I don't, Torgo might be right. I think I haven't yet seen her really get into the gear of I'm prepared to use the wood chipper on something. Alito used the wood chipper on Roe versus Wade, something he's been waiting to do for a very long time.
Really? How long?
Probably since he got onto the court, and probably even before that. Alito went to Princeton. Did I mention Princeton recently? And in his Princeton yearbook, it says ambition to be a member of the United States Supreme Court.
Cool.
Now, if you put something like that in your yearbook, you're really setting yourself up for major disappointment, because who the hell, so many things have to go right. He did it.
That's pretty cool. Wow.
Did we get all those super chats?
I think we did. I think
Jeremy, if I were a mod here, I would put you in a timeout for that comment.
That she's a good kisser.
Yeah, come on. That's disrespectful. Disrespectful.
Yeah, she's a
married lady.
She's a married lady, so of course she's not. She's going to be out of practice.
No, that was not my point.
No.
Absolutely not. So no, in fact, I think I might have even been at the conference in 2016 where we were having sort of giddy moments as well. It really is. And plus I look great in the tux. You've seen my pictures. Everyone looks great in a tux.
Yes, you do. It's hard to look bad in a tux.
So there you go.
Unless you're like 300 pounds and the buttons are not.
Yeah, right. Then nothing. Then yeah, you don't want to be that guy.
Nothing can save you. We're talking, and speaking of the Ivy Leagues, Harvard professors cancel classes as students feel blue after a Trump win.
Talk about the gay. My God.
Canceling classes. Students awoke to a somber campus following Trump's re-election to the presidency early Wednesday morning. My heart dropped a little bit. I don't remember caring this much when I was in college. The first time I voted, I think, was for John Kerry in 2004, and I was like, I didn't really know or care. I was default Democrat, as you are as a college student, and I voted and didn't even think about it after that.
At Princeton, did I mention Princeton? At Princeton,
no,
we had a saying about Harvard. Harvard sucks. And they really are sucking. Really, they're just the wimpiness, and
Isn't
Can
it
you
embarrassing?
imagine?
Aren't they embarrassed to even publish this article?
Nope. That's the world they're living in.
Wow.
Yes, they do, Mr. Thompson. Yes, they do.
I cried for an hour on election night. Student gathered at viewing parties. The Harvard Republican Club. Okay. The next morning, they woke up to a somber campus.
Luke Kushner. Luke Kushner. Yet another brilliant mixed marriage outcome. Luke Kushner. First name from the gospel.
Oh.
Last name, prominent Orthodox Jewish name you may have heard before. Oh, Kushner, and we're talking about being a good kisser. Kush is the Yiddish word for kiss. I don't know why someone would be named Kushner, though. I think it actually has more to do with a city in Eastern Europe, probably in Poland, where the people that sounded something like that, and people from there. Matthew Hammond has paid for the opportunity for us to read his comment. Matthew is such a consistent. I sometimes feel Matthew
one of the best. We're on a DMing relationship. He's that good. I've let him into the trust circle. Yeah.
Because it would seem to me that Matthew is either a full-time YouTube commenter or stalking me, because I go on some of I'm really diverse, and there's Matthew.
He's the smartest. He has the widest array of interests. He comes with smart questions. Yep. When I have you on, I could have a retarded person on, and same thing. Like he'll have very intelligent, well thought out questions. Like he's researched the person. It doesn't matter who I have on.
He wants courageous people on the Supreme Court. Okay, Matt, you go with that. No, I mean, you're right. You would think, right, that why would you not be courageous? You've got lifetime tenure. You've got this awesome staff. You're effectively making policy for the United States of America. You're interpreting. I mean, you have this incredible power, and you have a robe. And going back to the tuxedo point, everyone looks good in black.
You have a job for life. You don't have to worry about your abs anymore. You can turn in your gym membership. You're going to be in a black robe forever.
And yet what we see is that some people are socially and psychologically and emotionally incapable of courage. It's true. People like you and people such as you and myself, me and you, Chrissy, we're the kind of people we're comfortable, as are so many of the people in the chat, by the way. They're great Americans. The best.
Great people.
We're comfortable standing out from the crowd, departing from conventional wisdom. And here's the thing. In order to become a United States Supreme Court justice, you really do have to play a lot of games right. Probably not as many as what's necessary to become a partner in a major law firm, where you have to just really just keep all your meaningful views. Well, most of them don't have meaningful views, but if you have them, you keep them to yourself. Yada yada yada. So there is best example I have here is people are always saying, when some decision comes out and Chief Justice Roberts doesn't come through, so they'll say stupid things like they've got something on him, he's compromised. No, that's bullshit. Okay, folks. First of all, Roberts himself is a Boy Scout. He is exactly what he appears to be. But not only is he exactly what he appears to be, this is who he is. This, like, the compromiser, the institutional guardian, the moderate conservative, that is exactly who he is. That's how you get to be Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court. Bomb throwers don't get that gig. It used to be that that kind of people really didn't go far in electoral politics either, with some notable exceptions, historical exceptions. But now they're all, so many of them, clowns. Like, just being a clown is, I mean, look what California just sent to the Senate. Adam Schiff. I mean, that guy is a freak.
Yeah. He's
So,
not
different topic. But you're right, though. You're right, Dorgo.
Hold on, I want to play this clip because I never played this Letitia James clip. I know we're jumping around. Let's see. Oh, this is a great tweet. How do New Yorkers deal with this bitch? Letitia James is a straight-up Marxist. Instead of focusing on building New York back up, she's preparing to fight Trump again. Democrats are the reason this country can't move forward. Shout out to that guy, Jay.
We did not expect this result. We are prepared to respond to this result. And my office has been preparing for several months.
She's like a robot.
Because we've been here before. We faced this challenge before. And we use the rule of law to fight back. And we are prepared to fight back once again.
Oh my God, that is so brave.
Of this great state, it is my job to protect and defend the rights of New Yorkers and the rule of law. And I will not shrink from that responsibility.
You might look into shrinking a bit.
Yeah, you should be like genitals in a cold pool.
A little shrinkage might do you some good, Letitia. What a mediocrity. What a mediocrity.
I like this thread. Who exactly is she fighting for in New York besides herself and George Soros? The entire state is damn near red. He's losing by this was from a couple of these from yesterday. He's losing by less than 1 million. Oh, and he made real headway in New York. This is like impressive. He did better in New York and Jersey.
But the problem is, all that red part of New York,
it's fields.
It's empty. Empty. Not only is it empty, it's really it's depressed. There's no reason to do business in New York unless you're going to be in the metropolitan area where all the finance and entertainment and the Jews are.
You got to go where the Jews are.
Well, that's where the money is, right? We know that. I mean, listen, as someone who spends most of his day controlling international banking
and the weather.
The weather, we're not officially acknowledging the weather, but I think we're all pretty much clear about the banking and the media. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of work, but yes, we gather here pretty much in the New York area so that we can, use the bat signal. Okay, that was an associate saying good night. Excellent young man. Excellent young man. It's funny though. He walks out of here all the time without saying good night. I'm here. I'm on Chrissy Mayr's show in front of millions of people, and tonight he decides
hundreds. Yeah.
Please. If Mr. Thompson is suggesting what the bat signal, the Jewish bat signal might look like.
Wouldn't that be great? A nose in the sky, just a profile of a schnoz.
Yeah. Whatever works. We all know what to do. A terrible figure, and now that there is going to be a Justice Department again, and now that there are going to be 2 houses of Congress again, a dreidel, that's good, Red. There's going to be a lot more inquiry into just how it is and why it is that Letitia James would have been so frequent of a visitor to the White House before the Trump indictment took place. I mean, this is a terrible, terrible abuse of power and the rule of law. Awful.
And they can prove that. They can actually
Can they prove it?
Get receipts on that.
Well, they can prove the log shows that she made the visits. She'll say we were talking about yoga and summer camp, right? But it's funny because there's more information available about people don't talk on the phone anymore. I myself, if you call me on Gary Goldman.
He's a comic.
He's a comic. He's very funny. He followed me for a while, and then he realized I was right wing, and that in the comics cannot be found. They're not allowed to follow right winger.
It's the
But he
word.
you know what because I'm a funny guy, so he likes funny guys, and he said, "Cell phone. God forbid you should call me on a cell phone. We need to coordinate. I don't want to talk on the phone." The point is, everyone is leaving their activities, all their thoughts. I mean, the things that people put into DMs, forget about Signal, just plain DMs and texts, which is all recoverable,
Okay.
is mind-boggling. So if there's a story to be told with Letitia James, who I have every reason to believe is a political criminal, it will be told.
Yeah, that's exciting. Okay, what else are you most excited for Trump 2.0?
Oh, it's really like it's like a kid in a candy store, right? The flip side, what I just said about all the electronic stuff, there's a lot of deletion going on. They are destroying records. There's going to have to be a serious reform of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, which has so profoundly failed in its job and become a tool of political buggery. There's a lot of accountability that has to take place. Lost records, accidentally deleted records, that is going to be part of what has to happen here. And the FBI, I mean, I once had on my show a fellow, I'm really, really bad with names. We'll fix that up in post, right?
Yeah, we will. We'll edit that back in.
Who is very experienced in the world of intelligence and law enforcement. And I said, well, if you got rid of the FBI, what would replace it? And he said, there are different things the FBI does that are really appropriately farm-outable to other agencies that can and should have their own investigatory powers. In particular, the Bureau of Alcohol, Firearms, and Tobacco. There's a lot of that stuff is covered by the FBI. Weapons, and the immigration has its own. And after all, the IRS they're giving guns to their agents, right? So when you have an institution like the FBI that is sort of just floating out there, it comes up with reasons to perpetuate itself, and that's just got to be cut down. We got to, there's going to have to be major changes with and those, I think, Chrissy, have the potential to be some of the hardest tasks ahead of us, because there you're really, really talking about taking on the deep state. And there's going to be a lot of public pressure. There's going to be a lot of playing by friends of the agencies in Congress and in the congressional staffs, talking about how we are going to be laid wide open to terrorism, obviously to right-wing extremism, which is the only extremism we recognize.
Right.
And the FBI is sacrosanct and, the untouchables and all that. That's going to be a hard lift, but change absolutely has to be done. There really have to be changes made.
From Fealty, what is Ron's take on the SEC's lack of information for crypto and lawfare for suppression? Also, SEC versus Ripple, XRP for international trade settlements.
That's a lot to ask for free.
That's like two big questions.
Lack of information for crypto. I think the SEC is, like most agencies, it is largely staffed by people who are going in or out of the revolving door of the industry that they purport to be regulating. The problem is that the people who make the most money, people who make money in any of the financial sectors, it's not like a lawyer who makes a lot of money or a podcaster who makes a lot of money where you can become rich and have millions of dollars.
What? Who are those people?
No, I don't mean guys like you and me, but I mean people who really make serious money. Like you're a rich person because you make $7 million a year. In Wall Street, rich is a very different concept. It is really rich. So it's very hard to envision how you get people who are making money on Wall Street to become public servants. And therefore, the impression I have from talking to some of the lawyer friends I have who are involved in that, in the high-end securities law practice, is that the people in private practice simply run rings around the government guys. They just can't keep up. Not because they're slow, not because they're dumb, but it's just they don't have the resources in the background and the sophistication. That's the best I can do for a take, fealty. Lawfare for suppression, I don't really know what you mean by that. Suppression, you mean on a handgun? I don't really understand the question. Also, SEC versus Ripple. I remember a Grateful Dead song about Ripple, but that's about as much as I can tell you. And XRP for international trade settlements. I used to subscribe to that. I realized, I didn't really like, I just didn't get the value out of it, the cable, the satellite radio. So, no.
Okay. A couple more super chats from Gabriel Knight. What can be done to clean out the corrupt rot in the DOJ? Who would be a good AG? And do you think Fat Fannie Willis will be prosecuted for misappropriating federal funds?
Well, so I'm going to refer you guys to my podcast, which I'm going to give to Chrissy after, where I discuss this question.
It's a pun.
With my podcast guest. Yeah. On this question, because I don't want to try to look it up while we're talking. Who would be a good AG? A lot of people. Kash Patel would be a good AG. I mean, anyone. They're really, really solid people. My friend Mike Davis would be incredible. I don't think he considers himself to be interested in that, but that could just be how he's spinning it. I've heard a couple of other really good names. I'm not enough of an insider to really know who the best people would be for that. Though we're talking about a whole different experience compared to the one of 2016. And do I think Fat Fannie Willis will be prosecuted for misappropriating federal funds? Whether the Trump 2 Justice Department will really have the nerve to not only go after the likes of Fannie Willis and Letitia James, who are female black politicians charged with law enforcement in heavily black cities, which incidentally Donald Trump doesn't consider to be areas that he's going to, or the Republicans are going to make a lot of progress in politically. I mean, there were some amazing results that came out, but I think there's a political reason for him not to care, but that would take a lot of courage. It would take a lot of courage, and the pushback would be incredible. There's no question that there is a massive, massive free ride that black politicians, and especially female black politicians, get in the United States. And if someone is willing and able to stop that from continuing on indefinitely, I would hope that that person steps forward and is put in a position of leadership, because if not now, never.
Are you familiar with Tiffany Henyard, Ron?
I was thinking of Tiffany Henyard, and
but that's an entertaining story, isn't it? She's
but
the Dalton mayor.
so the question on Tiffany Henyard is, okay, evidently I've been corrected on this. The trustees in one of the 2 towns that she owns have tried to stop her. They've had trouble with the Illinois state courts, which are, of course, crooked. But Illinois law enforcement refuses to do anything.
Yeah.
I mean,
she's greasing them. She's paying a lot of them for overtime.
But you're talking, but no, I don't mean the cops. I'm talking about the governor. I mean, you talk about Fat Pritzker got out and said, yeah, we're aware there's a problem here, but the FBI's really got this. I wouldn't want to get in their way. Dude, this is your state. They're making you look really, really bad. You need to step up. I understand that for him, every step up is a potential cardiac event, but Illinois is hopeless. And but nonetheless, the fact that someone like this could be elected, and I mean, there's some real cultural problems that we have here, and they're complicated. I think it is going to be important to wrestle with them, but again, that's part of that Justice Department cleanup that has to take place.
And she's running for a second term. That's going to be entertaining.
Why not? What could go wrong?
They're like, you stole all this money, and she's like, you're not respecting me. I'm like, oh God.
As a black woman.
Yeah. Every
leader
has to start and end with that, just to remind everyone.
Well,
at all times.
How about that news conference by that Chicago mayor when he packed the Board of Education there so they would agree with his plan to borrow $10 billion to raise the salaries of every Chicago teacher, so that Chicago's teacher union can continue to finance his political career.
It's like one big human centipede. Matthew Hammond has one more question. The FBI passed a promotion forces them to create crimes through entrapment, like Gretchen Whitmer, kidnapping agent who was promoted to D.C. to handle January 6th. Whoa.
Yes. I saw a very good analysis on that, which I retweeted a couple, maybe it was last night. I mean, this is something, of course, that Kyle Seraphin talks about all the time. It's the agency's got to go.
Like a mob.
Yeah.
Yeah. My gosh. Very interesting, Ron. I enjoy your predictions and insight for sure. What is always a blast to talk to. You're just a delight. You're
but you don't want to monopolize my night.
I don't want to hijack your night. No, the baby's about to wake up, and I know he's going to be starving because it's been like 3 hours.
Because someone else wants to monopolize your night.
Right. My boobs are going to be occupied soon. So tell the fine people where they can find you and what's coming up.
Right, like it says on the bottom, Twitter at Ron Coleman. My podcast has its own Twitter account. We're going to be back to our twice a month dropping of episodes. We're going to have Ted Frank next week, and he's thankfully recovering from a heart transplant.
Uh-oh.
And I've got a channel here on YouTube, which is Lawyer Ron Coleman. If you don't use the word lawyer, you're going to find a very different Ron Coleman, but you'll figure it out eventually.
Why is
CHRISSIE,
he porn or something?
No, well, he's a bodybuilder. He's the all-time Mr. Universe. He was 10-time Mr. Universe, and apparently a really, really sweet guy. And I should get him on my show. It would be like the SEO, absolute SEO
meltdown,
simultaneous, orgasm.
Yeah, so he's a bodybuilder. So he's you if you move to Miami.
Yes, that would be. I might work my way through Reboy to Big Ron Coleman.
That sounds good.
Thanks for having me on, Chrissy. I'm so glad that you. And thanks for coming on to my show the other night. We really was fun.
We need to do
And
this
I hope
more.
we'll do this again soon.
We will. We will. Thank you to the chat.
Abyssinia.
For good comments and questions, and we'll see you
Thanks.
next time. I'll let you get back to controlling the weather, Ron.